Hey, so you may recall that last Friday I dropped a little bonus episode, which I dubbed for last Friday specifically, an extra helping, which was giving you a bit of news, a bit of resources, stuff you can use right now, and also some upcoming events for you to participate in if you are local. So Thursday morning, as I was cleaning my house, I got this idea. Now, you might hate it, you might love it, you might take it, you might leave it, and I do want to know what you think about it, okay? Here's the idea. The idea was weekly love notes with Emily, aka yours truly. Now, this is especially fitting for the month of February. I thought so we can just try it for February. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Today's like Galentine's Day, whatever you celebrate. I don't celebrate such things. Love is every day for me. Love is my favorite thing in the world, and I celebrate it every day. But I'm digressing here. I am digressing. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. The actual title, if we stick with this, the title Love Notes might stick, or we might go back to an extra helping. We shall see. But I'm thinking, maybe I think of something related to business, cozy or casual. You're getting a lifetime unfolding of this idea here. But the concept is this, a very brief, to the point, weekly share where I give you any of the following. Maybe it'll be what's been on my mind this week, or maybe a challenge I faced and had to work through, something I learned, a cool new tool or podcast or resource, an episode I loved or something I was featured on, something that just has sparked my curiosity lately. Maybe a book, a word device or a language tool, basically a what was up in my world this week. Now, I always want this podcast to feel like you and I are like BFFs, and this is what I do with my BFFs. We let each other know about the mundane little details, things we're excited about, things that happened to us that we learned, So I kind of think of it as like my little voice memo from me to you on what's happening. I do solemnly swear I will keep these under 10 minutes. I promise you that. And I don't solemnly swear to continue doing this. This is an experiment. I always encourage you to try experiments, and this is exactly that. It is a sheer and utter experiment. I will watch my numbers, but I will also listen to what you say. So if you're like, we loved that, if I hear from you and you and you, and you say you love it, I will keep doing it. And if you're like, that was kind of pointless, don't do it again, we won't do it. So this is an experiment. Give it a couple weeks, see how you like it, and then let me know your thoughts. Like I said, we'll probably just do it through February, and then we can go from there. So this week, specifically, I wanted to share a clip of an episode of Melissa Snow's Powerful Women Rising podcast. I was a guest on it a couple of weeks ago alongside KJ Blattenbauer. She is a PR. She works in the world of PR with entrepreneurs and professionals. And let me just tell you, it was a fun, but also really helpful conversation. People have given me and Melissa both such good feedback on it. So I'm going to play for you a really quick clip and then tell you my favorite part.
So I want to start with you, Emily. What do you think has been your biggest lesson that you've learned as a podcast host?
Oh, okay. This is fun. So I would say as a host, it's twofold. You said biggest, but I'm going to give you kind of like two. One is that I started to learn to follow my curiosity a whole lot more. And like the things that when I find myself really, really interested and passionate and excited about a topic, it can't help but come through in how I share it. So that's number one for anybody starting a podcast. Like you're not going to be able to sustain it if you're not interested. I will say that. And the other thing I learned, and I learned this pretty quick, and I learned it by listening back to a lot of my interviews. So I used to have an interview only podcast or interview primarily podcast, and I listened to those after I would record them to check for edits and things like that. I learned how not to interview. And that was like, basically, I had a list of questions printed out and I would just boom, 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 boom through all the questions. And when my guest responded, rather than like having a conversation with them, rather than making it a natural flowing thing, I would just be like, oh, I love that. And then I would just move on to the next question. So I learned really quickly, number one, the power of like really listening back to your interviews, because it teaches you so much about your own. You can do it with solos too, but just teaches you a lot about the things that the bad habits you have and the good habits you have. And I learned to make it more conversational and natural. And it's so much more fun. It's like nobody wants to just sit there like they're in the hot seat the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably those lessons are true for speaking as well, right, KJ?
All right, so that's the clip. I will include a link in the show notes. And my favorite part of this conversation is actually what KJ says next. So besides the guest appearance of Melissa's adorable cat and just getting to hang out with these two amazing women for an hour, I really loved KJ's story. She shares a story about how she's standing up in front of this room of weary conference goers who'd just been basically blasted at with information for 2 days straight. And she had like this whole speech prepared. You have to hear her tell this in her words. It's really great. But she was ready to wow them with more information, more knowledge, more insights. But she looked out into the audience and she read the room. She knew that this is not a speech. I'm talking at you. It is a conversation. So she tossed aside her pre-planned speech and she just started talking to her audience members, asking them what challenges they're facing, what they're and she was really listening with them and engaging with them in new ideas. And then the whole thing took on a life of its own, and suddenly it was tailored to exactly what they were going through. I thought it was a really good reminder, no matter what we're creating or doing, for two things. Number one, don't guess. Don't assume. We're going to be talking about that next week on the podcast, but always ask. Ask people what they want. Ask people what they're challenged by, what they're struggling with, what they want to hear, what they need. Ask your clients what matters to them. What would help them most before just creating the new product or service or widget or thing. And that's why I said we're doing this whole little love notes from Emily. We're doing this together. Like if it's not for us, we don't do it, right? Secondly, I loved the reminder to pivot when the climate changes, the direction for you changes, when you've given it your all for a real long time and you've really been consistent and you've really been putting in the work and it's just not sticking. A huge part of what we do in business, life, creative ventures, it is experimentation. You have to give that, time, the trial time to stick. But if you are consistently throwing spaghetti at the same walls and it's consistently sliding down, most definitely not ever getting al dente, it's time to pivot and look at what you can do to maybe boil that pasta in a different way. Maybe it's time to quit the pasta. Maybe you needed salt, different burner, different style of pasta, different pot. You figure it out for yourself. But maybe you and I need to chat and figure out, what we need to adjust there. If it is not feeding you, or it's not resonating, or it's not landing, or it's just draining you dry, it is okay to toss the plan aside, roll up your sleeves, and change it up. And that is one of the things that KJ gets into with her story. And I just thought it was a really great example. So anyway, that's this week's Love Note. I'll include a link to my episode with Melissa and KJ in the show notes. I hope you'll check that out right after this one. And on that note, you will hear from me business as usual, business casual as usual on Tuesday. And then who knows? I mean, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be back next week with another Love Note or extra helping or whatever we decide to call them. Okay, bye. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Small Business Casual. If you love the show, make sure to rate, review, and share it with a frazzled business owner that you care about. Because this shouldn't feel like a roller coaster ride, more like a scenic train ride with snacks. Don't forget those snacks.